We are live. If you're on Facebook or Healthy Wild Women, let me know how's your day going. Give it your permission so that you can actually pop in comments and I can see who's watching. And the same for Instagram. Drop in, say hi. Don't be shy. I'm just not long done a Zoom class. I'm still cooling down from my class. So yeah, it's quite appropriate. We're going to cover off hot flushes. And I'm trying to stop these things, all these notifications I get, because I get so many of them popping up whilst I'm doing lives, but I've not figured out how to do that yet. So if you know, drop me a note. But yeah, I wanted to cover off hot flushes because they can be quite debilitating. I have a number of clients who are perimenopause, menopause, and some of those are kind of later in life. And I say later in life, early 50s, compared to some who are in their early 30s. You might be thinking, whoa, hang on a minute, how's someone in their early 30s going through menopause? But it can be medically induced. So you may or may not be aware. As part of the coaching I do, I work with people in cancer rehab. So it's helping them through their treatments, post-treatments, being active emotional support and nutritional support. And for part of that, if you're 30, my youngest client's been 32, so you're 32-year-old and you're suddenly in the space of a few months being pushed through menopause, it can be quite a lot to take on. And it's also that thing of not being in control of it. So you've got all these kind of cancer treatments going on, and then you've got menopause on top of it. So it is a lot for people at any age, but it can be particularly, like I say, you can lock yourself away. And I know from clients who haven't had cancer treatments, who have not been through a cancer process, it can still be debilitating, like that thing of not wanting to go out. I know I always kind of get like hot flushes and I sweat more before my periods. And I remember being in the office one day and a senior manager was like, Julie, you all right? You're looking a bit red. And I didn't want to say to him, thanks, yeah, I've got my period coming, and that's why I'm bright red. And it still happens to me now. Like, now it doesn't really count because I've just done a workout. But yeah, it still happens to me now. I definitely notice a difference of how much I sweat. But obviously, one of the symptoms, or if you like, one of the kind of things you might feel into or might be impacting you once you go through perimenopause to menopause is the hot flushes. And like I say, there's nothing worse. You'll hear if you've had other females share their experience where they'll be in the middle of a shop and suddenly they'll be like literally pouring of sweat. So it's like you're actually doing a workout. And it can be quite, people not wanting to go out and about or kind of like having to layer. That's a big thing, having to layer clothes. And it's also like the night sweats and night waking up absolutely melting as well is another one a lot of my clients have. So I want to just cover off in case you're not familiar with hot flushes. You may be familiar because you're like, yeah, I've had my period. I've kind of experienced this perimenopause, menopause, but I wanted to kind of share what is it about? Why do we get them? What is it about? First up, a hot flush can last anything from a few seconds up to 4 minutes. On average, I believe they're around 4 minutes, and they can last for a couple of days in terms of having those hot flushes on and off for a few days, or it can happen over several hours. And the key thing around it is what to do when they happen, because I notice a lot of clients do get quite, like, say, anxiety around it, and that anxiety can make the hot flush worse. And I think the key thing is just making sure that you're kind of aware of what's happening, but how to deal with it as well. So, a lot of clients talk about there's not any warning. It's just like, bam, hot flush, absolutely melting, pouring of sweat, and it's really embarrassing. So what can we do around this? Well, first up, in terms of control, it's thought to be around the thermal control in our brain, the narrowing of the vessels, which ultimately means we don't have any control. It's what about the drop in estrogen being drops from high to lows suddenly happen and it narrows the vessels, and that thermal control we have kind of goes out the window. A bit like if you have a hot cup of tea and suddenly you're like really hot. That's the same sort of thing. So it's like your body will try to cool you down, or you might feel like you've got to get outside because you're too hot. You've had that cup of tea, you've got to take your jacket off, your hoodie off, whatever it is. It's that kind of signaling in the body. And with the highs and the lows of the estrogen, it's basically causing us to have that hot flush. So you're thinking, great, that doesn't sound like party time. So yeah, that's basically what causes it. It's not precise science, but that's what they believe is to do the thermal regulation of the body. And like I say, that could be anywhere from a few seconds, typically to 4 minutes, over several days, several hours. And then of course there's the night sweats as well, which I know many of my clients suffer from, and it can keep you up at night and wake you up being absolutely melting, and it causes disputes with partners because they're freezing cold and us females are like roasting. Yeah, so it's that whole thing about, right, what can we do about it? So first up is tuning to your patterns and your habits. So what are the things that maybe trigger a hot flush for you in terms of food? So we all know alcohol, right? Alcohol as females, we just need to admit we can have a drink every so often, but ultimately it's never agreed with us and especially when we're perimenopause to menopause, alcohol really does not agree with us. So we need to look at stripping alcohol out. I mean, I know I don't drink much now. When I was out the weekend there and I had a few drinks, I could feel myself getting hotter and hotter just after a few drinks of alcohol. So it's that whole thing about alcohol really doesn't work for us. And if you are at the point with hot flushes where you're getting really comfortable going out and about and they're kind of impacting your life, then cutting out the alcohol is going to help that. The next thing you do is look at any trigger foods. So for me, I know like trigger foods, for example, for migraines is oranges and apples. I can't have orange or apple juice or even eat one. I'll have a migraine within 30 minutes. Now, we know lots of people talk about bloating and foods that will cause bloating and tuning into that. So it's the same process for this for your hot flushes. Identify actually, is there any pattern around when you're having them, how long you're having them, and the foods you've had around that time. So it might be the spicy food that could cause your hot flush. So what is it that's kind of happening around that in your diet that may cause your hot flush? And then we're going to look at nutrition. I'm just looking because I was like, where's my supplements gone? So then we're going to look at nutrition. I've got it here. And two things you can do around natural supplements is magnesium and taurine. Now, I spoke about these before because these can help with waking in the night. The taurine is calming. You get it in a lot of kind of energy drinks, so they give you the caffeine and the taurine to balance it out, so you're not completely flying, but you still get that energy hit. So your two supplements you want to look at is your taurine and your magnesium. And any doubts you're on any other medication, of course, seek medical advice. But these are the two I bought, and I would seek a company of high quality and just check what you're getting, even when you're buying off the high street and Boots, Holland and Barrett, not always top quality. So try and get your purest form, see what's in it, and make sure it's not bulked out with loads of other stuff, and look at the strength of it. So this one's like 500 milligrams. What's this one at? 150. So yeah, look at getting the strength ones. And these are things that are going to help with the hot flushes. And for some people, these are the things that actually taking these will help. This also helps a whole host of other perimenopause, menopause challenges like breast pain, which is why I take them, and sleep started to. Breast pain, I was taking this one, then my sleep started getting interrupted, so I started taking these two together. So I always say, if you're on other supplements, strip it back, try them, and then see what works for you. But strip it back, give it 90 days for it to see if it's impacting, having a positive effect. And if it's not, then stop taking it. But yeah, these are the twos in terms of helping hot flushes. So what else can you do around a hot flush? So we mentioned diet, we mentioned quitting alcohol. Let me just shut them out the way. And I mentioned layering. So one of the things that clients have found really helpful is when they're out and about, layering clothes. So you're not like stuck in the big, God, you know what it's like? I feel quite what I'm talking about. You're in like a roll neck, really jumper. You're somewhere, you're just roasting, and it just makes you hotter and hotter. And then the panic comes in and you've just got to get out that shop or get the winter coat off or whatever it is. So layering is your friend. Also look at the materials. So synthetics are going to draw heat. Things like silk as well can draw heat. So think about the synthetics that you're wearing that can draw heat. Try and go for cooler cotton and things. And like I say, layering is your friend. So if you get too hot, you can take the layers off and you're not trapped in that thick, woolly jumper. Another thing that's been proven by science to help with hot flushes is obviously moving your body, but yoga specifically. So they've looked at studies with yoga, and it's thought that yoga's really helped with reducing hot flushes and the night sweats as well. So if you're not taking part in any activity, then moving the body. So what we're really talking about here is calming down the nervous system. So you think removing the alcohol, looking at any trigger foods, and kind of having layers and calming yourself down so you're not getting anxious and making hot flushes worse. So this is really about how we calm our nervous system, and yoga is obviously going to stretch out the body but also help to calm the nervous system. All right, there are other things you can do too. So I've mentioned the supplements there. So if you're doing the yoga, you've maybe identified trigger foods, and you're taking the taurine and magnesium, and you're like, oh, Julie, this is not working. I'm still getting really bad night sweats. Other thing with night sweats, there are companies now who will do specific bedding to help with night sweats and specific bed clothing for night sweats as well. So check out, search for it, night sweats. What was it I looked for? Yeah, it was like menopause and bed sheets, things like that. So Google search menopause bed sheets, menopause nightwear or night sweats, and there's companies now that do bed sheets and nightwear specifically to help with this too. So yeah, I was going on about calming. So sleep is going to help, right? We need our sleep so much. That's going to calm our body, help it heal, help it recover. So we've got these, we've got our sleep, say we've got our bedding all sorted out, we've got our cotton nightwear, we've got our layers on, we've quit our alcohol, we've identified our trigger food, we're taking our supplements, and still the hot flushes are an issue. then please go speak to your doctor. Speak to your doctor about what is it called, progesterone. I can never say it. Progesterone alone or in combination with estrogen. They can help with hot flushes. So look at that. And I know for people who are obviously estrogen fed cancers, they might want to shy away from that, but have a discussion about progesterone. So looking at what hormones you can get to help balance out your system. And don't ever feel like it's a failure or you don't want to bother the doctor. If it's taken over your life and you're uncomfortable and you feel like it's stopping you going out and it's embarrassing and you don't want to go there, you might not even want to go abroad on holiday because you're like, Jesus, I'm bad enough here. Then if it's starting to impact the quality of your life, then please go have the conversation with your doctor. And that's why I want to discuss it today, because I know from young clients to older clients, it impacts our confidence, doing presentations at work, it impacts your confidence in going out and about and being in shops, because it's nothing more worse than having a pure sweat on and everyone's staring at you. All right, let me summarize that for you. So hot flushes, anywhere between 2 seconds to 4 minutes, which is the average. They can last for several hours, several days. They tend to be more experienced in the latter part of the perimenopause rather than the early stages, tend to be latter part. Thought to be around the thermal regulation of the body, the drop in the estrogen going from high to low quickly, but science isn't quite pinned down quite yet. But just think of that effect of the hot tea and something you're really hot and your body's trying to cool you down. Similar effect. So what can we do about it? Look at taking out alcohol altogether, look at identifying any trigger foods, spicy foods, things that might be like, not quite working for you. Look at the patterns around your hot flushes. What are the things you can spot? And then look at the things you can change. Then looking at layering, going out in clothes, layer your clothes so you can take them off, and look at investing in some bed sheets specifically to help with night sweats. Look at investing in some bedwear as well and making sure your bedroom is cool. Then yoga to kind of relax the nervous system. Go for the yoga. The science is there. So as much as you might be like, I don't know where to start, there's lots of beginner classes. And even if you're not comfortable starting in a gym, look at going online. Natural supplementation, magnesium and taurine, search that out. And if none of those are working, go and speak to your doctor about progesterone. I told you I can never say it, and estrogen, and looking at what you can do around that to help. So that's the main things. And what I would say is just really tune into your body. I always talk about, water. Stay hydrated too, right? Because if you're sweating a lot, you're going to need more water. But stay in tune. I always say you need to be an expert in your own body. So try those things, as I mentioned. You can try them at home. And then if it's still not working for you, go and have that conversation with your doctor, because you do not need to suffer and you do not need to have a poor quality of life due to your hot flushes. And accepting it, yes, we're going to experience these things. But again, it's meant to be the latter part of perimenopause. But anything where it's affecting the quality of your lifestyle, then go and speak to your doctor. Like I say, you can try these home remedies, if you want to call them that, as I mentioned. But any questions, give me a shout out, or if you need any help with resources on how to have that conversation with your doctor, pop me a note and I can drop you resources. And keep following me. Let me know #replay if you're watching on the replay in the Healthy Wild Women group. Let me know if it's useful, if it's beneficial, and anything you want to see more of. All right, Coach Julie signing off. Thank you for joining. Take care, and I shall catch you guys tomorrow.